Part 1. The hidden pulse beneath the Scorpio shell, where souls are. In the vast theater of the cosmos, where light dances with shadow, where each zodiac sign plays its archetypal role, Scorpio doesn't simply act. Scorpio writes the script, burns it, and rewrites it in ash and blood. While most people think they understand Scorpio. But here's what almost no one really understands. Scorpio is not just the sign of transformation. It is the forge, the sacred chamber where the soul is smelted, broken, reforged, and baptized by fire. And that's not poetic exaggeration. That's astrological law. Milky Way Scorpio's dual rulership, Mars and Pluto, a cosmic paradox. Scorpio is the only sign ruled by two planets of war and death, Mars and Pluto. This isn't a mistake. It's divine design. Where Mars brings active aggression, courage, and primal energy, Pluto brings what we fear most: annihilation, surrender, the death of the ego, and the underworld of buried truth. Together, these two forces make Scorpio not a warrior of battlefields, but a warrior of the soul. This is why Scorpios intimidate people without trying. It's not because they're cold. It's because their mere presence stirs the buried skeletons in others. Most people aren't ready to look in that mirror. Candle the myth no one tells. Scorpio's first death happens early. Here's a truth we rarely speak aloud, even in astrological circles. Most Scorpios experience a symbolic death early in life, a rupture. Maybe it's betrayal, maybe abandonment, maybe trauma no one else even noticed. But that's the initiation. That's the beginning of the alchemy. And from that moment, the Scorpio child becomes something else entirely. A soul who no longer lives on the surface of the world. They begin to observe people differently. They begin to sense pain in others, not because they were taught, but because they carry it in their own blood. And this is where Scorpio's legendary intuition is born, not in mysticism, but in wound wisdom. Scorpio doesn't just read people, they autopsy the soul. To the untrained eye, Scorpio seems psychic. But let me tell you, it's more precise than that. It's not magic. It's emotional surgery. A Scorpio walks into a room and immediately knows who's lying, who's hurting, who's faking strength, who's about to fall apart. And yet, they say nothing. Because Scorpio doesn't confront directly, they watch. They gather. They absorb. This silence is not passive. It is a sword, a radar, a shield, and sometimes a prayer. Dubbed the sacred silence of Scorpio. If you've ever been close to a Scorpio, you know the silence. That moment when the air shifts, and they withdraw not out of anger, but to process what others don't even realize just happened. They are watchers of energy, guardians of thresholds. While others fill space with noise, Scorpios walk the edge of the unseen. They move through life listening to what isn't said, to the energy behind words, the motive beneath smiles, the wound behind anger. In this silence, Scorpio rebuilds themselves, piece by molten piece. They don't cry out. They transform in silence. And when they rise again, you may not even recognize who they were before. Crossed swords, loyalty tempered in fire. Another thing most never truly understand. Scorpio's loyalty is not soft. It's sacred. When a Scorpio chooses you, they don't just like you. They bind their essence to you, invisibly but unshakably. This is not about romantic passion. This is devotional energy. They don't forget. They don't let go lightly. And if you betray them, they won't explode. They'll disappear. And yet, your soul will still feel their echo long after they're gone. DNA, the soul memory within Scorpio. Scorpios carry a deep memory. Even if they don't remember past lives, their energy does. Many Scorpios are born into karmic loops, families, relationships, or circumstances designed to test and awaken their inner fire. They are not born for peace. They are born for alchemy. Brain real Scorpio wisdom. It's not about revenge. It's about resurrection. Pop astrology loves to say Scorpio is vengeful, but the truth is far more powerful. Yes, Scorpio remembers, but what they truly seek is not payback. It is transformation. They want to show you that what was broken can be transmuted. That from betrayal, something holy can emerge. That from grief, a new power can rise. Person in lotus position closing this chapter and preparing you for the descent. This is just the beginning. To understand Scorpio is to walk into the temple of truth where no lies survive. It is to die to who you thought you were and rise as who you truly are. In the next part of this journey, we'll go deeper into Scorpio's mystical relationship with silence, psychic perception, and emotional mastery. Megaphone commentary invitation. Has a Scorpio ever looked at you and you felt like they saw everything? Drop your story in the comments. And if you're a Scorpio, tell us what your first soul death was. We see you. Part 2. The Psychic Storm. Why Scorpio's silence is more powerful than words. Everyone fears the Scorpio stare, but the real danger? It's the silence that comes after it. Because when a Scorpio goes quiet, the universe holds its breath. Scorpio's silence is not what people think it is. It is not detachment. It is not coldness. It is not the absence of thought or emotion. It is an ancient force in stillness. A storm held between worlds. A sacred chamber where energy is processed, purified, and then unleashed. Handle what the silence really means. When a Scorpio goes quiet, they are not ignoring you. They are watching everything. Not with suspicion, but with penetrating perception. This is when Scorpio becomes a psychic mirror, reflecting what you hide, revealing what even you don't want to know about yourself, reading the emotion beneath your words. The silence is surgical. It cuts through illusions like a blade through silk. Others may flinch from tension. Scorpio walks straight into it. Not for drama, not for dominance, but because Scorpio understands this truth. Silence is where real power lies. DNA silence as psychic technology. Scorpio's silence is not empty. It's layered, coded, alive. When they go inward, they're tracking the energetic field around them. They're mapping the unspoken emotions in a room. They're sensing soul shifts before they even happen. In modern language, we might call this high sensitivity or empathy, but that barely scratches the surface. This is not emotional intuition. It's spiritual sonar. They don't just pick up moods. They feel motives. They feel memories. They feel what's next. Scorpion real-life example. The friend who left without warning. Have you ever had a Scorpio in your life go completely silent, disappear, even when things seemed fine? You might have thought, why didn't they say anything? Why didn't they explain? But here's the secret. They already saw it, long before you did. The energetic imbalance, the unspoken betrayal, the shift in loyalty. They felt it in their bones, not because you said anything, but because your frequency changed. And they knew. So they left, without a scene, without closure. Because Scorpio doesn't need words when they have truth without sound. Brain the power to hold space. In spiritual work, we often talk about holding space. If you know how to do this like Scorpio, they don't rush to fix you. They don't sugarcoat. They simply sit with you, in your darkness, your rage, your grief, without flinching. Why? Because they've sat in that place themselves. They're not afraid of your shadow. They're intimately familiar with it. This is why their silence heals. It gives you room to unravel, without shame. A Scorpio may not always offer comforting words, but their presence says something more powerful. I'm not afraid of the truth. I'm not afraid of who you really are. And neither should you be. Crossed swords. When Scorpio withholds speech, it's sacred. To a Scorpio, words are not casual. They are rituals, spells, weapons, keys. That's why they don't talk as much as other signs. They're not trying to be mysterious. They're trying not to waste power. When a Scorpio finally speaks, it means something. It's been weighed. It's been purified. It's often a truth no one else was brave enough to say. And when they're silent, it's often more honest than 1,000 pretty lies. Dove the peace in their stillness. One of the most misunderstood gifts of Scorpio is their ability to sit still in the face of pain. When others panic, they hold steady. When the world is loud, they go quiet. Not because they don't feel, but because they feel so much, they have to process it before responding. Scorpio's stillness is often misread as emotional distance. But it is, in truth, spiritual discipline. They are waiting, observing, letting illusion collapse on its own. High voltage example, a famous Scorpio's silence. Take Bill Gates, a Scorpio. When he was under immense pressure during Microsoft's legal battles, he wasn't out screaming in interviews or defending himself loudly. He waited. He strategized. He let the fire burn. And then, with a single move, shifted the narrative. That's Scorpio's silence in action. Not passive, not submissive, but patient, potent, and precise. Person in lotus position, closing reflections. Scorpio's silence is not weakness. It is not a void. It is not a punishment. It is the space where transformation begins. It is the breath before rebirth. It is the sacred quiet before a soul emerges stronger, wiser, and more free. Megaphone comment invitation. Have you ever felt someone's silence and known it meant everything? Have you ever felt a Scorpio's silence, healing you or haunting you? Tell your story in the comments. And if you're a Scorpio, what does silence mean to you? Part 3. Loyalty forged in fire. Why Scorpio bonds are eternal until you break them. You don't date a Scorpio. You don't befriend a Scorpio. You enter a soul contract. And once sealed, it's sacred. But if you break it, it doesn't shatter. It burns. Scorpio's loyalty is not like any other signs. It isn't soft. It isn't polite. It isn't something they give because it's expected of them. Scorpio's loyalty is elemental, ancient, unshakable, and it does not come easy. It is forged, not given. It is tested, not assumed. And once it's formed, it's almost unbreakable, unless you break it first. Handle loyalty as a sacred vow. For Scorpio, loyalty is not social. It's spiritual. When they trust you, when they truly trust you, they are not offering support. They are offering their essence. That's why you'll notice. A Scorpio may take years to open up. They may test your integrity silently, watching your patterns, observing your energy. But once you've earned their loyalty, they'll walk into fire for you, without hesitation. They don't kind of support you. They defend you when you're not in the room. They carry your pain as if it were their own. They stay, even when it costs them something. Cross towards the loyalty is total, or it's nothing. There is no halfway with Scorpio. They do not do lukewarm. They are not casual about connection. To them, relationship is ritual. They don't want small talk. They want soul truth. They want your real, not your pretty. And if you give them that, truly give it, they become one of the most powerful protectors in the Zodiac. Their love is armor. Their loyalty is steel. Their devotion is fire. But fire betrayal is a spiritual wound. If you betray a Scorpio, you don't just lose a friend or lover. You awaken the fire they try to keep sacred. And here's what most people don't understand. Scorpio doesn't get angry because their ego is bruised. They get hurt because you violated the soul pact. They let you into the inner sanctum, and you brought lies into a temple. That is not a mistake to them. That is sacrilege. Scorpion, they may walk away, but you'll never forget them. Scorpios don't always explode when betrayed. Sometimes they simply vanish, not as a punishment, but because they cannot remain in a space that dishonors truth. Their body may leave quietly, but their essence, it lingers. Years later, you'll still feel them. In your dreams, in your regrets, in the mirror, when you ask yourself why you ever lost something so rare. Because Scorpio doesn't attach lightly, but when they do, they become part of your energetic memory. And if you destroy that bond, you'll carry the echo of what you broke, not as punishment, as reminder. DNA Scorpio and soul memory. Many Scorpios carry a karmic imprint, a memory of lifetimes where their trust was abused, their power misread, their silence mistaken for weakness. This life is not just about love or friendship. It's about sacred justice. That's why so many Scorpios seem guarded. They're not cold, they're ancient. They remember being betrayed in lifetimes past. They feel loyalty not just in this world, but in the next. Balance scale Scorpio's code. Fierce justice. Scorpios have a moral compass forged in shadows. They don't follow man-made rules, they follow soul law. If you're honest with them, brutally honest, they can forgive almost anything. But lie to them, twist the truth, disrespect their loyalty, they won't confront you to destroy you. They'll walk away to protect what's still sacred inside them. That's not vengeance. That's sovereignty. Waxing crescent moon real-world story. Marie Antoinette and her Scorpio loyalty. Let's take one of the most famous Scorpios in history, Marie Antoinette. Often misunderstood, portrayed as indulgent and detached, the truth of her story is much deeper and much more Scorpio. Despite political chaos, personal attacks, and betrayal within her own circle, she remained ferociously loyal to her family and her values until her final breath. And when her trust was broken, she didn't seek revenge. She held her silence. She carried her dignity. And in that silence, she became mythic. This is how Scorpio moves. Not to scream, but to etch their story into eternity. Person in lotus position, closing reflection. Scorpio's loyalty is not about perfection. It's about truth. If you honor it, They will protect you through every fire. If you betray it, they will leave, but the imprint will remain. Not to haunt you, but to remind you, you touched something holy, and not everyone gets a second chance. Megaphone comment invitation. Scorpios, what does loyalty mean to you? Have you ever been betrayed after giving someone your all? Drop your story in the comments. And for those who lost a Scorpio's trust, what did it teach you? Part 4. The Phoenix Code. How Scorpio transforms pain into power. Everyone wants to rise like the phoenix, but no one wants to burn first. Except Scorpio. Scorpio chooses the flames, because they know, only through destruction can the soul be remade. Scorpio's myth is more than just survival. It is transfiguration. And no image captures this truth better than the phoenix. You've heard it before. The phoenix burns. The phoenix dies. The phoenix rises. But Scorpio doesn't just carry this myth. They live it. Not once, not twice, but over and over and over again. Fire Scorpio's life isn't linear. It's cyclical. Where other signs walk in a straight line, Scorpio walks in spirals. Each turn is a death. Each return is a rebirth. They shed old versions of themselves like a serpent shedding its skin, not because they want to, but because they must. Growth for Scorpio doesn't come gently. It comes through the collapse of everything false. Jobs, relationships, beliefs, even identities. If it's no longer true, it must burn. And so Scorpio steps into the fire, willingly, because they know the treasure is never in the comfort. It's in the ashes. Candle pain as initiation. Scorpio's pain is not random. It is alchemical initiation. Other signs may run from pain. Scorpio dives into it. Why? Because somewhere deep within their soul, they remember, what doesn't kill me doesn't just make me stronger. It makes me truer. Pain is the crucible. Grief is the mentor. Loss is the teacher. Through every heartbreak, every betrayal, every fall, Scorpio doesn't collapse. They refine. DNA transformation is in their DNA. There are people who survive, and then there are people who transmute. Scorpio belongs to the second group. They take the worst of what life throws at them, and somehow turn it into wisdom, art, power, compassion, clarity. It's not a mindset. It's not a strategy. It's a soul pattern. They are born not to escape darkness, but to master it. Balance scale from trauma to transcendence. Let's be honest. Most people drown in their pain. They avoid it, suppress it, medicate it, but not Scorpio. Scorpio says, show me the wound. Show me the lie beneath it. Show me how I can be reborn through it. This is why Scorpio energy is so intimidating, because it doesn't allow illusions to survive. They don't just survive trauma. They take it apart, name it, understand it, and reshape it into fuel. Scorpion famous Scorpio example, Leonardo DiCaprio. Let's talk about Scorpio Leonardo DiCaprio. For years, he played roles that mirrored Scorpio's transformation arc, from betrayal to power, from innocence to survival. But behind the scenes, he endured years of rejection before ever becoming the legend we know today. He didn't just become successful. He used rejection as the refining fire. Like a phoenix, he rose not by chance, but by burning through failure, criticism, and resistance. Waxing crescent moon. Why Scorpio doesn't fear endings. To Scorpio, endings are not death. They are gateways. That job loss, that betrayal, that collapse, it wasn't the end. It was a summons, a calling to become someone they couldn't be before. Scorpio understands this sacred paradox. To be truly alive, something in me must die. And so they allow it, not with ease, but with courage. Person in lotus position. Final reflection. Scorpio doesn't resist the fire. They become it. That's the Phoenix Code. And those who witness it, whether in awe or in fear, are seeing a sacred truth most are too afraid to live. That pain is not the enemy. It is the doorway. Scorpio is the one who walks through that door and returns carrying the light. Megaphone comment invitation. Have you ever experienced a Phoenix moment? A time when everything burned, and somehow you came back stronger? Scorpios, how have your darkest moments made you who you are today? Tell your story below. You never know who it might help rise from their own ashes. Part 5. Scorpio and the Ancestral Mission, the Keeper of Karmic Fire. Some people are born to live their own lives. Scorpio? Scorpio is born to complete stories that began centuries before they arrived. Not everyone understands the weight they carry, because it wasn't meant for everyone. There's a silence in many Scorpios that goes beyond their personality. A stillness that seems ancient, like they've seen too much, even before their first memory. This isn't imagination. It's not coincidence. It's soul inheritance. Because Scorpio is often chosen, not just for their own evolution, but to carry out an ancestral mission. Fireborn with karmic fire. Have you ever wondered why so many Scorpios experience deep emotional burdens from a young age? Family secrets no one talks about. Invisible responsibilities they can't explain? It's because they've been marked, often unconsciously, as the ones who will break the cycle. They are born into lineages of suppression, betrayal, silence, addiction, or power imbalance. And instead of repeating those patterns, Scorpio is called to end them. This is not romantic. It is not easy, but it is sacred. Candle the soul contract of Scorpio. Before they are even aware of it, Scorpio is often tasked with naming what has been denied in the family line, feeling what others refuse to feel, speaking what has been buried for generations. This can show up as early life trauma, as betrayal from those closest to them, as the black sheep syndrome, being different, misunderstood, or rejected. But beneath all of it is a deeper truth. Scorpio is not cursed. They are chosen to hold the fire until it becomes light. Scorpion emotional alchemy across generations. A healed Scorpio doesn't just heal themselves. They shift timelines. By facing their own pain, they change the energetic pattern that shaped their parents and their grandparents and those who came before. Think of it like this. When a Scorpio breaks free from an abusive relationship, they're healing more than themselves. When they choose honesty over manipulation, they rewrite the family code. When they forgive what was never apologized for, they close ancient wounds. Scorpio does the work that no one else in the bloodline dared to do, because no one else could. Waxing crescent moon the wound that comes with the role. Here's the part few speak of. Being this cycle breaker often means carrying the family shadow. Scorpios may feel emotions that aren't theirs. They may carry guilt, shame, or grief from ancestors they've never met. They may find themselves haunted by dreams, patterns, or energies that have no logical origin. This is ancestral memory. It's real, and Scorpio feels it viscerally. DNA real-world story. Frida Kahlo, a Scorpio's karmic fire. Let's look at Frida Kahlo, born under the sign of Scorpio. She didn't just paint. She bled onto canvas. Her work was drenched in pain, not just personal, but cultural, ancestral, mystical. Frida broke more than bones. She broke taboos, expectations, and generational silence. Through her suffering, she gave voice to centuries of suppressed feminine rage, grief, and sacred longing. That is Scorpio energy, not to suffer for attention, but to suffer in order to transcend and transmute. Brain the lineage whisperers. Scorpio has an intuitive sense for what came before. They can walk into a house, a family, a relationship, and feel what no one has ever said aloud. Sometimes they become therapists, sometimes mystics, sometimes the quiet sibling who sees through everyone at the table. But always, they are the holders of karmic insight. Person in lotus position, closing reflection. Scorpio was never meant to blend in. They were meant to cleanse the bloodline, not through perfection, but through inner revolution. They are the ones who say, "This pattern ends with me. This silence will speak through me. This pain will be transformed into power." It is a heavy path, but it is also one of the most sacred. Megaphone comment invitation. Are you a Scorpio who always felt you were carrying something bigger than yourself? Have you broken family patterns no one else had the courage to face? Share your story in the comments. And if you're still in the fire, we see you. You are not alone. Part 6. Energetic gravity. How Scorpio changes the room without saying a word. Some people speak, and still no one listens. But when a Scorpio walks into a room without saying a word, everyone feels it. The air thickens, the energy shifts. Because presence is power, and Scorpio owns theirs completely. Scorpio doesn't need to perform. They don't chase attention. They magnetize it. But not in the way Leo shines or Gemini charms. Scorpio pulls, quietly, deeply, irresistibly. It's not personality. It's not confidence. It's energetic gravity. Magnet, what is energetic gravity? Every sign carries a certain frequency. But Scorpio? Scorpio's frequency is dense, potent, and undeniable. It's the vibration of hidden truth, unspoken emotion, suppressed desire, Shadow energy. When a Scorpio enters a space, all of that activates in others. Not because Scorpio tries to provoke it, but because their energy reflects back what others are trying to hide. And that changes everything. Fire. Why people react strongly to Scorpio. Ever notice how people get nervous around Scorpios? Talk too much to fill the silence? Either obsess over them or feel oddly threatened? That's not coincidence. It's energetic confrontation. When someone sits in Scorpio's presence, they are, consciously or not, facing their own emotional mirror. Scorpio's field says, "You can't lie here. You can't pretend here. You are being seen." Even if the Scorpio says nothing at all, candle stillness is power. In a world obsessed with noise, Scorpio's silence is a psychic event. They don't have to raise their voice to dominate a room. They simply exist, and the emotional climate rearranges around them. It's not about intimidation. It's about clarity, presence, soul force. People don't know why they're affected, but they are. They feel the pull. They adjust without thinking. They sense a storm behind the calm. That's not imagination. That's Scorpio. Scorpion. The difference between control and influence. Here's what most people get wrong. Scorpio doesn't want to control everyone. They just can't help but influence everything. It's not conscious manipulation. It's resonance. Scorpio's energy is tuned to frequencies most people avoid. Pain, truth, sexual tension, power dynamics, shadow impulses. So when they show up, those energies surface. People project, people confess, people unravel, sometimes in beautiful ways, sometimes in self-sabotage. But rarely do they stay the same. DNA real-world example. Joaquin Phoenix, the Scorpio vibration. Look at Joaquin Phoenix, a Scorpio through and through. Watch any of his interviews. Notice the atmosphere. He doesn't try to entertain. He doesn't people please. He's just there, fully, deeply, unapologetically. And everyone around him adjusts. Some get uncomfortable. Some become entranced. But no one stays neutral. That's energetic gravity. That's Scorpio. Waxing crescent moon. Why Scorpio can't be ignored. Even when they don't want attention, they still disturb the status quo. Why? Because they carry the frequency of change. And change is never comfortable. So whether in a boardroom, a relationship, or a casual gathering, Scorpio's energy asks one question without words. Are you being real right now? If the answer is no, the discomfort will rise, and it won't go away. Not until truth does. Person in lotus position. Closing reflection. Scorpio doesn't just walk into a room. They enter like a psychic tremor, awakening what's hidden, shifting what's false, and anchoring what's real. This is not charisma. This is energetic presence refined over lifetimes. They don't speak to impress. They don't move to be seen. They simply are, and that is enough to reshape a room. Megaphone comment invitation. Have you ever met someone who shifted the whole energy of a room just by walking in? Scorpios, do you feel people react to your energy even when you're silent? Tell us your story. Let's talk about the power of presence. Part 7. Scorpio, the spiritual alchemist. Soul healing hidden behind the armor. They say Scorpio is dangerous, intense, unforgiving. But what they don't see is what lies beneath the armor. A soul healer, a shadow guide, a spiritual alchemist capable of transforming your pain, even when you don't ask for it. Scorpio walks the earth wrapped in mystery and fire. But at their core, they are not destroyers. They are transmuters. They take pain and turn it into wisdom. They take betrayal and forge compassion. They take darkness and shape it into medicine. But that alchemy doesn't come with a smile. It comes with silence. It comes with storms. And most people miss the gift because they fear the fire. Candle the alchemist's wound. The truth is, before Scorpio can help anyone, they must first survive themselves. They are initiated through the most brutal rites. Soul-level grief, shattering loss, ego death after ego death. Why? Because that is the sacred price of knowing how to heal others. Scorpio doesn't offer healing because it sounds nice. They offer it because they've bled for it. This is why their comfort feels different. It's not soft. It's not fluffy. It's real, raw, ritualistic. Scorpion. Not all healers wear white. Some wear black. Some wear silence. Some wear scars like sacred tattoos. Scorpio's healing doesn't always feel like healing at first. Sometimes they mirror your shadow. Sometimes they call out the lie you weren't ready to admit. Sometimes they say nothing at all and just hold space while you fall apart. But they see it. All of it. And they never flinch. Because what you call your breakdown, Scorpio recognizes as your rebirth. Fire, the sacred role of the wounded healer. In ancient astrology, Scorpio is associated with the 8th house, death, transformation, sex, power, and healing through surrender. They are the shaman, the oracle, the death doula, the one who stands between worlds, not to escape life, but to make life whole again. They know healing is messy, healing is non-linear, healing requires shadow work, and most importantly, healing requires truth, which is exactly why Scorpio is so often misunderstood. DNA real-world example, Julia Roberts, healing through presence. Let's take Julia Roberts, a Scorpio. Behind her smile and grace, there's a palpable intensity. And yet, she often plays characters who carry deep emotional layers. Women who heal not by being perfect, but by being fiercely honest, vulnerable, resilient. She doesn't preach. She doesn't perform healing. She simply shows up as she is, and transformation happens. That's Scorpio, not trying to fix you, but helping you remember who you were before the wound. Waxing crescent moon, why people are drawn to Scorpio, even when it hurts. People often say, I don't know why, but I can tell them things I've never told anyone. I feel seen, even though they barely said anything. That's not a coincidence. That's Scorpio's healing field at work. They don't use charm. They use presence. They use energetic honesty that gives others permission to be real, but only if you're ready. Scorpio never forces transformation, but once you're in their field, something begins to shift. Brain-wise, Scorpio doesn't heal everyone. This is important. Scorpio doesn't try to save the world. They protect their medicine, because they know not everyone is ready, and I am not here to be drained. Their healing is not open source. It is sacred, and it's reserved for those who respect its power. This is why many Scorpios walk alone, not because they want to, but because they must guard their light until someone proves they can handle it. Person in lotus position, final reflection. Scorpio is the shadow healer, the soul whisperer, the one who knows that true alchemy is not found in love and light. It's found in death and resurrection. They will never offer easy comfort. They offer something better, a mirror, a fire, and a path. Walk with them, and you will not be the same. Not because they changed you, but because they reminded you of who you were before you forgot. Megaphone comment, invitation. Have you ever been healed by someone's truth, even when it hurt? Have you experienced Scorpio's presence as medicine? If you're a Scorpio, how do you offer healing to the world? Tell us in the comments. Your shadow is sacred here, Fire Blackheart. Part 8. The Sacred Fusion. Scorpio's deepest desire in love and intimacy. Scorpio doesn't want your attention. They want your soul. And unless you're ready to stand naked, not just in body, but in truth, you will never truly touch them. Scorpio is known as the most sexual sign of the Zodiac. But people get it wrong. It's not about lust. It's not about control. It's not about pleasure for pleasure's sake. For Scorpio, intimacy is spiritual fusion, a merging of energies so deep it erases the illusion of separation. They don't want a partner. They want a mirror, a portal, a cosmic key, someone who doesn't just touch their skin, but enters their underworld and survives. Candles, sacred sexuality, where power meets surrender. Scorpio rules the 8th house, not just of sex, but of death, rebirth, merging, and the unseen forces that bind souls. This isn't casual connection. This is ritual, alchemy, initiation. When a Scorpio makes love, they're not performing. They're opening a temple. They're calling in something ancient and holy, a kind of energetic communion that burns through masks and awakens dormant power. It's the kind of intimacy that undoes you. Scorpion, why they seem too intense. People often say, Scorpios are too much. They fall too fast. They're obsessed. But this isn't obsession. It's depth in a shallow world. Most people live on the surface. Scorpio doesn't know how to do that. They feel everything, fully, powerfully, completely. And they expect the same in return. That's not neediness. That's sacred standards. They don't want a warm body beside them. They want a soul that won't flinch when the lights go out. Fire real-world example. Ryan Gosling, the Scorpio lover archetype. Look at Ryan Gosling, a Scorpio. His on-screen roles often carry an aura of mystery, intensity, and emotional silence. Yet his characters love with a devotion that is all-consuming. It's never loud. never flashy, but it's undeniably full of soul. This is Scorpio love, quiet, magnetic, unshakable, and if it must end, devastating. Because once Scorpio fuses with you, you live inside them forever. Broken heart, why superficial love wounds them. Scorpio is not afraid of heartbreak. They're afraid of empty intimacy. The kind that touches the body but avoids the soul. The kind that says, I love you, but runs from depth. The kind that flirts with vulnerability but never stays. To Scorpio, this is betrayal. Not because you lied, but because you refuse to go where love becomes sacred. DNA, the desire to be known, fully. At the heart of every Scorpio is a sacred longing. Know me, all of me, even the parts one fear. And let me know you, past your pride, past your pain, past your mask. They want to know, what keeps you awake at night? What wound shaped your soul? What truth you're too afraid to say out loud? Because if you can show them that, you unlock something no one else ever touched. Waxing crescent moon, why they're slow to trust, but love for a lifetime. Scorpio doesn't open quickly. They test, they observe, they wait. But once they decide, they're all in. Their loyalty becomes legendary. Their devotion becomes protective, transformative, fierce. And when they love you, they carry your soul inside them. Even if you leave, even if you break them, some part of you remains etched into their energy field for life. Person in lotus position, final reflection. Scorpio doesn't want safe love. They want true love. The kind that sets fire to illusion, demands your rawest self, heals through surrender, awakens both pleasure and pain, and calls it divine. They're not here to play games. They're here to make love that becomes a portal to the sacred. So if you're lucky enough to be chosen by a Scorpio, don't just touch them, meet them, merge with them, become with them. Megaphone comment, invitation. Scorpios, what does sacred love mean to you? Have you ever experienced soul-deep intimacy that changed your life? Share your story, because here, your vulnerability is power. Blackheart fire. Part 9. Creative destruction. How Scorpio builds legacy from ruins. Some build with bricks, some build with money. But Scorpio? They build with ashes. What breaks most people becomes Scorpio's blueprint. Scorpio has always been misunderstood as a destroyer. People say, they're too intense. They end things. They're the sign of death. And yet, what they don't realize is this. Scorpio doesn't destroy out of cruelty. They destroy what was never real. They are not chaotic by nature. They are architects of truth. And sometimes, before something sacred can rise, something false must fall. Candle, the sacred role of the destroyer-creator. In the spiritual traditions of old, there were always gods and goddesses of destruction, not because they were evil, but because they cleared the space for new life. Scorpio holds this archetype in the Zodiac. They are the ones who burn illusions, collapse lies, confront dysfunction, tear down fake personas, not to punish, but to make room for something real to rise. And once the fire is done, that's when Scorpio begins to build. Brick Scorpio doesn't rebuild, they reinvent. Here's what's different about Scorpio's transformation. They don't go back to normal. They build a new world. After a breakup, they don't just move on, they evolve. After a job loss, they don't just settle, they launch something more aligned. After betrayal, they don't just protect themselves, they raise their frequency. Their life is a constant pattern of death, silence, vision, action, legacy. They take ruin and rewrite reality. DNA real-world example. Bill Gates, Scorpio mindset in motion. Let's take Bill Gates, a Scorpio. Known for revolutionizing the tech world, Gates didn't just build Microsoft. He transformed entire systems, the way we think about software, productivity, even philanthropy. And when his public image was tested, he didn't collapse. He pivoted, restructured, and rose again with even greater clarity and long-term focus. That's Scorpio energy. Vision through destruction, structure through surrender, purpose through pressure. Waxing crescent moon. Scorpio's legacy is not for the moment, it's for eternity. Some people create for applause. Scorpio creates for impact. They think in decades. They move in silence. And when they commit to building something, it is infused with soul, depth, purpose, permanence. This is why Scorpio energy is founded. Healers who rise from trauma and teach others how to transform. Artists who paint pain into eternal beauty. Leaders who carry the shadow work of generations. Their creations outlast them, Because they're built from what is true. Scorpio and the blueprint of the broken. Many Scorpios are handed shattered tools. No stability, no clear plan, just pain, pressure, and problems. But what do? They study the fracture lines. They find the lesson in the rubble. And they begin again, differently, wisely, fearlessly. Scorpio doesn't build what existed before. They build what never existed until they broke. And that is the difference. Brain creative power born in fire. Scorpio's creativity is not decorative. It's alchemical. They don't create art to entertain. They create to excavate, to heal, to transmute, to immortalize the story no one else was willing to tell. Whether they're writing, speaking, designing, or parenting, Scorpio imprints every action with soul-level intensity. Their legacy is not just what they leave behind. It's who they become through everything they survive. Person in lotus position, final reflection. Scorpio is the visionary who thrives in ruins. The one who can walk through smoke and fire and still carry blueprints in their mind and light in their chest. They don't just rebuild, they rebirth the entire system. This is not destruction, it is divine redesign. And if you've ever had your world collapse, you can rise, too. Scorpio already left the map in the ashes. Megaphone comment, invitation. Have you ever built something stronger after everything fell apart? Scorpios, how have you turned your darkest moments into your greatest creations? Drop your story in the comments. Your ruins may be someone else's hope. Blackheart fire. Part 10. Scorpio's final truth, the soul's right to sovereignty. Scorpio doesn't want to control others. They want to master themselves. Because in a world addicted to validation, performance, and fear, Scorpio is here to remind you of something timeless. Your soul is yours, and it always has been. Throughout this journey, we've uncovered the deeper truths behind Scorpio's mystery, the sacred pain behind their power, the silence that carries storms, the loyalty that functions like a vow, the love that fuses souls, the vision that rises from ashes, the healing hidden beneath their armor. But beneath it all, there's something even more ancient, more enduring, more Scorpio than anything else. Sovereignty. Crown the spiritual sovereignty of Scorpio. Scorpio's final truth is this: I belong to no one but the truth within me. While other signs seek connection, identity, or clarity in the outer world, Scorpio turns inward. They walk into the shadows not to disappear, but to emerge untouched by illusion. Their life is not a performance. It is a sacred confrontation between self and soul. This is why they feel different, why they are often misunderstood, because they are here to remember what others forget. You don't need permission to evolve. You don't need applause to rise. You don't need to be understood to be real. Candle-why Scorpio often walks alone. Scorpios are not loners by preference. They are guardians of their own frequency. They know how easily the world drains the truth from people. So they choose silence, stillness, protection. But that doesn't mean they're cold. It means they're clear. Clear on what they will allow. Clear on what they will carry. Clear on what is sacred and what is not. Scorpion sovereignty is not isolation, it's mastery. Scorpio's solitude is not exile. It is incubation, where others need to be seen. Scorpio chooses to see themselves first, to heal at the root, to burn away every false layer, to hold their own power, even when no one claps. And when they rise, they carry a light not given by the world, but forged in their own fire. DNA Scorpio's gift to the collective. Scorpios don't just transform for themselves. They carry a message for humanity. Their very presence says, you are allowed to break. You are allowed to rise. You are allowed to hold your truth, even if it scares people. They are reminders of our own right to be whole, to be raw, to be real, to be free. Sparkle's real power doesn't perform, it radiates. In the end, Scorpio shows us that true power is not about domination or attention. It is about depth, discipline, alignment, integrity, and a relentless devotion to authenticity. They are the soul's mirror, not the ego's trophy. And when they love, it's sacred. When they lead, it's silent but seismic. When they speak, it's because it matters. This is Scorpio, not a sign, a frequency, a portal, a legacy of truth. Person in lotus position, final reflection, the life lesson. So what can we all learn from Scorpio? That pain is not to be feared. That endings are entrances. That silence is a weapon and a womb. That real love fuses, not flatters. That truth, your truth, is sovereign, whether you are a Scorpio or not. If you've ever had to break in order to become, if you've ever had to burn down your life to find your soul, if you've ever felt too deep for this shallow world, then Scorpio lives in you, and your rebirth has just begun. Megaphone comment invitation. Tell us, what part of Scorpio's soul speaks to you the most? Which transformation in your life has been your phoenix moment? Scorpios, what do you wish the world truly understood about your path? Blackheart, leave your thoughts below. We read every one of them. Bellhop bell call to action. Subscribe. If this journey into Scorpio's soul moved you, awakened you, or helped you understand yourself on a deeper level, subscribe to the Path to Buddhist Wisdom for more Zodiac soul work, deep astrology, and truth without filters. There's so much more to uncover, and Scorpio is just the beginning. Fire Scorpion, thank you for walking through the fire with us.